Good morning. So we're in today's Mishna Brura. It's actually something I realized I forgot yesterday when we were speaking about the placement of the tefillin that I'd like to address. The Mishna Brura says, Barosha etzim, you put on the arm tefillin at the top of the bone. So he says, Ein rotelomar, an abbreviation, mean to say. This does not mean to say, Rosh etzim mamish, actually at the top of the bone. Because there, right by your elbow, the flesh is actually low. In other words, there's not much of a bicep at that stage. Ad sheyatchil liyot gavoha, until it begins to become high. Ein makom tefillin, that's not actually the space. There's not the place for tefillin. The ein al zeh, there's not on this. Shem ki boret, the name of the bicep. That's not yet considered the bicep right at the bottom. Elo telamar, what it means is begova habasar shebe'etzem. Once the flesh, from that bone, once the flesh starts to rise, once you really have a bit of muscle there. And the Ramah was not coming when he spoke about how it should be by the bone to lechadesh, to make new, to teach us something new, shum davar, anything. Rak b'mesh sayam, it's only with what he concluded, aval lo b'chatzia etzem shesamuch lashechi, but not with the half of the bone that is close to the armpit. So don't do it too close to the armpit. That was the point he was trying to make. V'rasalomar, what he means is, even though right up by your armpit there is still real bicep there, a little bit of flesh, basar tapuach. There's still a little bit of bicep over there, all the way up to your elbow. V'gam dat hamachaber hu kain. But nevertheless, you shouldn't put it too high. The elbow should be further down, closer to your elbow, not closer to your armpit. In that, you do it again on the egg of the bicep, not going up to the top by the shoulder. Gamdat Machaber who came, and the opinion of the Machaber is also this: the Davka Mechetzia Etzim Ulamata, only from halfway down the bone. Kedamuchach B'Siv Zayin, as we see later on in section 7. And what the Machaber wrote earlier about the bicep flesh on the bone, al korchacha gamkein, al korchacha, literally it means against your will, but what it really means is you have to say. Al korchacha, you have to say, gamkein, also. The kavanato mechatzi aitzem v'lamata, his intention is from halfway down the bone, and further down. The Agran, the Vilna Gaon, the Brura, in his explanation, Hiskim ledina, agreed ledina, Aramaic for din, the law, to the law. He agreed that this is the law. The whole makom hakiboros kasher le'aniach for tefillin. The whole that whole area of the bicep is kosher for tefillin. V'chein mashma prisha, that's implied in the prisha, one of the other halachic commentaries. The al kol panim, at the very least, al kol panim, lamata mimakom hakaboret pasul l'chole alma. Below that area of the bicep is pasul, is essentially no good. L'chole alma, Aramaic, for the whole world. We've had that a couple of times before, according to everyone. Okay, and therefore, nachon limnoa, it is appropriate to restrain, to not milaniach tefillin, put on tefillin gedolim, big ones. Ki al pi rov matzui b'tefillin gedolim shesof hakatzitza munachat lamata mimakom hakaboret. Because al pi, based on rov, generally, in other words, most of the time, if you're putting on supersized tefillin, it comes in matzui. It is common, it is frequent that the big tefillin, that at the end of the ketzitza, of the box of the tefillin itself, munachat lamata, is placed below mimakom hakiboret, the bicep. Imlo sheyaksherem lachatchila b'chatzi ha'etzim ha'elyon, unless you properly tie it around the top part of the bicep. The gam ze lo nachon lahakal lachatchila b'zeh, and that's also not so fantastic to lehakel, to go lenient in this, that you're putting it right up by the top of your bicep, so that the bottom of it doesn't go beyond the end of your bicep. Since the Machaber and the Ramah say you rather shouldn't put it up too high. So when you've got, essentially what he's talking about here is when your tefillin are bigger than your bicep, then you're in trouble. So bigger tefillin are not actually necessarily better, because the whole tefillah should be placed on your bicep. If he has nothing other than if he has nothing other than, in other words, if he only has big tefillin, it is better that he should tie them higher towards the top. Where there is still bicep atapuach, the bicep of the yetzer bezel kol panim da'atagra v'shar poskim, you will fulfill al kol panim at the very least, same word, da'atagra, the opinion of the Vilna Gaon, the sha'ar poskim, other authorities. Rather than placing them low. In other words, if you've only got big tefillin and the question is too high or too low, rather go with too high. Because if you go too low, you will not fulfill the opinion according to chule alma, the whole world, everybody, according to everybody. The gamma bracha yelavatala, and the bracha also will be wasted. It will be a wasted bracha because you've said a bracha over tefillin, but you haven't put tefillin on. Next law in the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah says, Gidem she'ein lo yad, rak zroa. Somebody who has had an amputation, he has no hand, only a forearm. So if in other words, he has a stump at the end of his wrist, what does he do about tefillin? Yaniach belo bracha. He should put on tefillin, however, he won't put on a bracha. The reason for that, there are some who say that he should wear tefillin, some who say that he doesn't wear tefillin, so therefore we put on just in case, but we don't say the bracha just in case he needn't say. The Mishna Brura explains, she'ein lo yad, he has no hand. Ratzalomar, this means to say, she'nital pisat yad smolo, that his left hand is taken away. Im kol hakana adha kobdo shenikra al bugin. Actually, what he's talking about here is where the hand is gone all the way up to the elbow. Aval im nisha ktsat me'akana gamar zerua model atosfot achayim betfilin v'yivarech gam ken. In fact, that if he has some of his forearm, so the way I read the Ramah is not the way that the Mishnah Brura is reading it. If he has some of his forearm, he would put on tefillin with a bracha. The only time he put on tefillin without a bracha is where his arm actually ends at the elbow. And this is what I found in a version of the Or Zarua, one of the early opinions, that we have zachinu, merited, mikarov, recently, lo'orot, to its light. In other words, there was a new manuscript of Or Zarua that was discovered that clarifies that actually we're talking here about an amputee at the elbow, not at the wrist. Amputee at the wrist could certainly put on tefillin with a bracha. At the elbow, he would put on tefillin without a bracha. Bli bracha, ein bever halacha. Take a look in the biur halacha. That's the section of the Mishnah Brura where he goes into these halachot in more depth. V'im ein lo yad small klal. What if he has no left hand at all? U'afilu katsa hazroa. In other words, the whole left arm is not there. U'afilu katsa hazroa shelamala mimakom hakiboret nish'ar. Makom hakiboret ein lo klal. Or even if the upper edge of the arm from the kibbored remains, but the place where that bicep starts isn't there. Patu milaniach hashal yad. He does not then put on his tefillin shal yad af beyamin. So in other words, if the amputation is above the elbow, or he doesn't have a hand at all, he is exempt from tefillin even on the right hand. He doesn't even put on tefillin on his right hand. He doesn't put on tefillin at all. However, there are some who are strict on this and say he should put on his right hand. Because man shena'aseh gidam besmol to makom hanachat tefillin, and the entire time that he is that anybody, in other words, has an amputation on their left arm, which is the place of putting on the tefillin. But what if he loses part of his right arm? Even if that whole hand or arm is not there, chayav b'tefillin, he is obligated in tefillin. So how's he going to put on the tefillin if he doesn't have the right hand? He should request or seek out that other people will put the tefillin on for him. So he's not able to put it on himself, but other people will put it on for him. So the one who has no left arm doesn't have to put on tefillin at all, but some say that he should try to put on his right arm. And the one who doesn't have a right arm does need to put on tefillin, and he will get somebody to put on tefillin for him. Good. Next section. So the Mechaber continues, Haminag hanachon, the correct custom, Shiahei hayud shel kesher tefillah shel yad letzad halev, that the yud of the knot of the tefillin of your hand will be close to your heart. Ve'atefillah alav letzad hachutz, and the tefillin are on the outside. So in other words, that yud of the knot is on the inner side of your tefillin against your chest, and the box is on the other side of that yud. You should also be careful that this yud of the tefillin should not move away from the box. In other words, it is part of the strap, and so it can come away from the box. It should make sure that it's close by. Haminag hanachon, the correct custom, he says, that the yud is on the side. In other words, according to the Machaber, it's not essential that the yud should be on that side, but that's a good thing to do. The Mishnah Brura says, "Ein b'Brura hagro." Take a look in the explanation of the Vilna Gaon. Shekatav dedina beGemorahu lefarish hagoinim, who says that this, in fact, is the law of the Gemara according to the explanation of the sages. It's not just a custom; it's a real law. That the yud should be close by. I beg your pardon, that the yud should be on the inside. Ein b'Brura halacha. Take a look in the Brura halacha. Shekatavnu, we wrote there, Shenachon lizayu shelo yarchiv harbe et kefal hakesher ha'aniva sheratzuya overet ba, that you should not double up the knot of the loop through which the strap passes, so that the place where you actually tie the knot should also be close to the tefillin on the side of the heart. In other words, when you do the tightening, do that tightening right up close to the tefillin as well. Alav, it doesn't mean that the tefillin should be sitting on the yud. In other words, that the yud is underneath the tefillin. No, what it means is that it should be close to the tefillin across the board, not underneath it. Next to it, not underneath it. Since it's below the tefillin on the side of the body, as we wrote earlier, so we call it below because when you're standing up, it is, or when you're sitting down, it's actually below the tefillin, but not that it's underneath between the tefillin and your flesh. And the tefillin is above on the top. You should be careful that it doesn't move, that the yud stays touching your tefillin the whole time. And in the Zohar, Parsha Pinchas machmir ba'od b'inyan zeh, is very strict regarding this matter. The yesh machmirin the gamke shehein betoch kisan. Some are strict that even when they are in the kisan, in the literally the pocket in the bag, even when they're in the bag, you need to be careful with this. Shelot tazuz klal, that it should not move at all. In other words, that the yud hayud should be always attached to the tefillin. Again, and from this reason, there are those who have the custom likshor hayud im chut shel gid, to bind the yud with a thread of gid of sinew im hatfila, together with the tefillah. V'rawi levatel zeh, it is fitting to negate this. Now, those people shouldn't do this. Because now what's going to happen is that since you put this sinew to connect the yud to the tefillin, what actually happens is that comes between the box the box of the tefillin and your body. So even though you're now fulfilling the idea that the yud should be attached to the tefillin should also be touching your body. So you're fulfilling the one at the cost of the other. That's not the goal. Uvil Vusha Strad, in one of the commentaries, Katav Dorai Levato Gam Kan Aminag Shekorchin Haratsua Bamakom Akiboret Tachati Titor Davegan Ken Chatzitza. Says a similar kind of thing about where they would wrap the strap around over the box in a way that would also block between the box and your body. Mehatfila, so from the tefillin, v'yachtoch betitora milamata v'yahadek hayud im habayit. Okay, and the idea is that the yud shouldn't leave the tefillin, should be, you put it that it sits against it, and it's together with the tefillin itself. Good. Section 3. המנהג הנכון לתקן שהמעברתא שבה רצויה עוברת תהיה מונחת לצד הכתף והקציצה לצד היד. So what you should try to do, the correct custom, you should try to fix up, you try to make it that the part of the tefillin, I'll just show you what I mean over here, is that if this is the box of tefillin, so that's where the actual box is, and this is the base of it, and you have the straps coming through like that. So you've got the yud on that side, that's what we've been talking about. The yud should be there, and it should be close to the tefillin and also close to your arm, close to your heart. Right, this is the person's arm. Then what you have is the straps of the tefillin on that side. That's the ma'avarta, and the front of the tefillin is over there. That's the ketzitza, right? Ketzitza and ma'avarta. So what we're saying is that the ma'avarta should be let's say the ketef towards the shoulder, and the ketzitza towards the hand. So the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishna Brura continues, the iter hamaniach tefillin mimi she'eino iter. Now, what about a left-handed person? Now, left-handed person puts tefillin on their right hand, as we'll see in a little while. But the problem for a left-handed person is that their tefillin, right, since their hand is going the other way, the right hand, so their tefillin, you want to have the same system where the yud is against their heart, and the mavarta is towards the shoulder. So what you see is that left-handed tefillin are actually the opposite way around to right-handed tefillin. So if I'm a lefty and I take the tefillin from the right-handed person, so I would take them and now I want to flip them over, but now I have a choice. Either the yud is going to be on the wrong side, or the ma'avarta is going to be on closer to the hand. So what should you do? So same thing if a right-handed person is borrowing tefillin from a left-handed person. Now I can't take out the strap and put it in the other side. Take a look in the Ber Halacha. What exactly are you supposed to do in this situation? The Mishnah Brura says it's a little too complicated for the Mishnah Brura. I'll leave it out for now. That's it for today. Have a wonderful day.